You know, Paul, I really hate my field. And one of the reasons I do is because it's one of the most gimmicky, bullshitty, crap loaded friggin' fields that there is. Constantly, all these different fitness gimmicks, massagers, and things like that. That new gun they have, which is actually pretty effective and everything, but it's $600. And a lacrosse ball can be just as useful a tool to loosen soft tissue. Um, if you're having an issue, A, with tightness in those larger muscle groups, B, with that supraspinatus muscle I was talking about, which is a little harder to get to, you can use a lacrosse ball to get into that tissue. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this. Again, I don't know your background, but this is a soft tissue technique that again you could do, especially like you're talking to me, you're sitting in a chair for 50 minutes. Then the next guy comes in, you're sitting in a chair for 50 minutes. The next guy comes in, you're sitting in a chair. Okay, etc. So and on and on. So this is some self massage technique. It's horrendously painful, and you want it to be. The pain response is one of the things that helps the tissue release. Okay, so you can also, and I mean, this would be up to you, but if muscle tightness and your muscles just bound up, you can go to an acupuncturist and have them perform what's called dry needling on you, where they stick a needle directly into the tissue, right? It's not typical acupuncture. You're not hitting meridians and all this spooky nonsense. They're putting a needle straight into an adhesion in the muscle. It's not painful, but the muscle will twitch. It will involuntarily contract and totally fatigue, and it causes the muscle to open. That's one way of releasing. Another way would be something called Rolfing or structural integration. It's a very aggressive form of massage. The needles are less damaging. You'll heal from them faster, within 24 to 48 hours, whereas structural integration can leave you basically fucked up for 5 days, 6 days. You'll be bruised. It's brutal. But they basically force the tissue open. It's very aggressive massage that requires you to move and them to rake the tissue. All right. There's other things. Graston's another technique, not as good, less aggressive, but this is just as good. And it's a way you can kind of dig into the tissue. So if it is that supraspinatus muscle, all right, we want to target it. And I talked about how it runs under this bony process right here. You're going to want to get this lacrosse ball on your neck about here, okay? And that's kind of at the root of the muscle. And what I'm going to do is find a wall. A doorway is really good because you can get your head past it. And I'm going to lean in, placing the ball there. I hope you can hear me. I'll talk a little louder. And you're going to push into the trap. It's not going to be pleasant. All right, these muscles hold a lot of tension. It's going to be pretty painful. And from here, I can leverage back and forth a little bit. You have to do some exploring. See, I'm looking up and down. There it is. Ooh, right into the neck. From here, I like to make some circles with my arm. And what I'm trying to do is just get that muscle to work a little bit under tension. But you have to go through the trap, and it's not pleasant. But the trap itself may be tight, and this might help it. So I'm going to work some different angles with my arm, and it's just trying to release that muscle. All right? You can hit the trap itself from different angles against the wall. Again, this is a form of like self-massage. You might have heard of foam rolling. This is just a more aggressive version of it. And the same thing, I'll push into the muscle, find a tight spot, and I'll kind of just work on moving the arm around while I got tension on it. You can also kind of roll, although on the back with the shoulder, it's tough. Let me see if I can get a good spot here where you can see it better. It's tough to really get much rolling done. So I'll roll, and again, like I'm not going to go over anatomy with you, but you want to kind of roll across the fiber the way it goes. But you can kind of dig in. And there's no real rule here. Really what you want to do is apply pressure, roll across the muscle, or put pressure on a nasty area and move the arm around, all right? And both ways are going to kind of help force that tissue open. It's not pleasant, but afterwards, you should feel a lot better. So that's just a very simple form of self-massage, soft tissue work. Like I said, you might have heard of foam rollers, things like that, or the Theragun, things. Very similar, except this costs like $299 instead of $600. And it's a little bit annoying, but it gets the job done. So that's something you can also do, especially before and after a long day of therapy sessions where you're kind of sitting in a chair and not moving around. Or if you're going to the gym, good way to warm up and loosen the shoulder joints, especially the traps. You could also go into the pec. Okay. All right. And there's also things you could do for the lat muscle, but they're a little more complicated, and I'm not going to go over that with you today. You have to get a little more acrobatic. Okay, so it's another very simple form of self soft tissue therapy.